What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the breakdown video for the Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo Undisputed Super Middleweight title fight that takes place Saturday, September 30th in the main event of a Showtime pay-per-view card. Before we get into that, if you guys could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I try to build my channel up here. So, back to this fight. You know, this is a huge fight for the sport of boxing. Anytime Canelo fights, it's big. He's the face of boxing. He's the biggest name in the sport. And, you know, coming into this fight, you know, of course, everybody knows that Canelo wanted Jermell Charlo, Jermell's twin brother. But Jermell, with a bunch of personal issues, according to him, has been out of action for over 2 years. He said it'd be too difficult to go into that fight green like that and fight Canelo just after a over 2 year layoff. So they offered the fight to Jermell, and Jermell, who's the undisputed 154-pound champ, jumped on it right away and is willing to move up 2 divisions to challenge Canelo for the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world at 168. Now, in normal breakdown videos, guys, if you haven't seen them before, this is a title fight. So in title fights, in any breakdown video, we discuss the fight itself, what it means for the sport, in the division going in, you know, and things that could happen moving forward. Now, then we take each fighter. In a championship fight like this one, we start with the champion and then go to the challenger. We talk about what they've done coming into the fight, and then we ask the same questions on both sides of each fighter. Following that, I will do, is it better for boxing if one or the other wins the fight? And then finally, we will do my prediction on the fight at the end of the video. So we look at the fight itself. Now, what does it mean for boxing, this fight? Well, it's big because you have the face of boxing in Canelo defending his undisputed title, which is always big, but he's fighting a fellow undisputed champion. And this is the first time in the 4-belt era that you've had an undisputed champion from one weight class fighting an undisputed champion from another weight class. That's a big deal. That's very significant. Charlo cleared out 154, you know, and legitimized himself as the top guy there without question. And Canelo has done that at 168. And Charlo, you know, Canelo signed that 3-fight deal, and we wanted to see big fights. And Canelo wanted to shut Jermell up. Jermell didn't take the fight, but Jermell has established himself more, and he is fearless. He's the better Charlo by far. And he's willing to take on the lion at 168 in Canelo and go after that undisputed title. It's a big fight for boxing. It is. It's a big fight, you know. So the winner, you know, if it's Charlo, we're looking at a rematch with Canelo. He's already talking about the rematch because he's expecting to win. And then Canelo, it sets up either a showdown with the other brother, Jermell, or it sets up David Benavidez, something, you know, in the PBC, something big. So either way, it's, you know, it's a good matchup, and a lot can come from it, and we can't wait to see what happens. Now, let's look at Canelo Alvarez, the reigning undisputed champion, and what he's done coming into the fight. Now, again, we go back the last 3 fights and look at what they've done in that time frame. Last 3 fights for Canelo date back to May of last year, 2022. And it starts off with his second loss of his career when he moved up to 175 and challenged Dimitri Bivol for the light heavyweight championship of the world, and lost convincingly to Bivol. Bivol outboxed him, outworked him, took a unanimous decision in that fight. And, you know, Canelo, following that, stuck to his 2-fight deal with the zone at the time, and decided to come back down to 168 and defend his undisputed title in a 3rd fight with 40-year-old Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Canelo started off hot in that fight, dominated really the first half of the fight, was pitching a shutout. Then after 8 rounds, he was up easily, and then seemed like he got a little tired, and Triple G kind of, you know, took over, and for the most part won the last 4 rounds. Canelo still won a convincing decision, no doubt, but it was a little lackluster. I don't think people were as excited, you know, or I don't think they got maybe their money's worth, because a lot of people wanted to see Canelo, even though he won definitively, I think they wanted to see him knock out an old man in Triple G, even though Triple G is an all-time great fighter. So, you know, don't look at that as such a burn towards Canelo. Look at it as Triple G's a great fighter. And even at 40 years old, he is Canelo's all-time enemy and foe. And it's always going to be a productive and solid, good fight, you know? But be that as it may, Canelo got the undisputed, got the win, kept the undisputed title. And then in May of this year, he returned and fought his WBO mandatory challenger and interim champion, John Ryder. And they went to Mexico to have the fight, and Canelo pretty much dominated John Ryder without question, scored what should have been 2 knockdowns, and cruised to a shutout, unanimous decision. And a lot of people criticize the opponent. That's only because most people don't know, you know, most casuals don't know John Ryder, but John Ryder has been a very legitimate fighter since 2019, when he maybe beat Callum Smith, who was the #1 super middleweight in the world at the time. And a lot of people thought Ryder beat Smith. A year later, Canelo fought Callum Smith, the #1 super middleweight in the world, and he dominated him over 12 rounds to a shutout decision. So, you know, the fact that Canelo dominated a top 3 or 4 super middleweight in his own division, and a legitimate fighter and contender, you know, a lot of people want to criticize that. There should be no criticism. John Ryder was legit. That was a legit win. And Canelo now is coming into this fight with Charlo, signing that 3-fight deal. I think he's hungry. I think he wants to prove himself across the board that he is a, you know, still one of the top dogs at one, you know, not just in the division, but pound for pound. And that's why he's taking such a big fight in terms of, on paper, fighting a fellow undisputed champion in Charlo. And I think he's hungry, very hungry for this fight. Now, what kind of style does Canelo need to have to beat Jermell Charlo? First and foremost, he needs to impose his will and body size, even though he's down on height and reach. Charlo has a 4-inch height advantage and a 2.5-inch reach advantage. Canelo needs to get inside Charlo and show him why he's overall the bigger fighter frame-wise. He needs to work that body. That body is going to be huge, especially for Charlo. And we'll get into this in a little bit. He's only fought 3 times since 2020. So this guy has not been very active. He's been out of the ring a while heading into this fight. It's going to be 16 months by the time the fight happens. Over 16 months since he's fought. And he has not been an active fighter. So Canelo, for size-wise and because of durability, needs to impose his will and work that body. Jab his way in, and Canelo knows how to do that. Jab, counterpunch with the right down the middle, get close, work the body. Charlo is not a big-time mover, and he needs to be able to just work the body, break him down, and I think Canelo can have a successful night that way. Now, I do think he needs to take some chances, because I have never seen really Canelo get hurt. I know he got stunned very early in his career by like a jab or something like that, but since then I've never seen a guy get hurt against big punchers. Triple G, Sergey Kovalev, even Bivol didn't hurt him, you know, at light heavyweight. So Canelo can take a punch. I think he needs to take some chances and go after Jermell Charlo in this fight early and impose his will. Now, can Canelo win this fight by knockout? Absolutely. I think he could hurt Charlo with 1 punch, and I think he could break him down and stop him. So I absolutely think Canelo can hurt and stop Jermell Charlo. Now, can Canelo win a decision? Absolutely, I think he can. I think Canelo overall is the better boxer between the two. He's a very good boxer puncher. He throws combinations, he gets inside, he works the jab, he works the body. I definitely think Canelo can win a decision over Charlo. Now, what does a win here? What does a win mean for Canelo in this fight? Well, it means a lot because he shouldn't lose this fight. I mean, I'm sorry to say, Charlo is good. He's a very good fighter. But him moving up 2 weight classes, taking on one of your potentially top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world in Canelo, Canelo shouldn't lose. So a win is almost expected, and it sets up, bigger fights in the PBC, especially the one that we really want to see, which is him and David Benavidez. Any kind of loss, even if he gets a rematch and beats Charlo in a rematch, kind of tarnishes the showdown with Benavidez that everybody wants to see, that all-Mexican showdown. So I think Canelo knows that, and I think Canelo needs to win. He can't afford to lose here. So I think a win means a lot for Canelo, not just for his legacy, but for him moving forward and what he's going to do to close out his career. Now, what does a loss mean for Canelo? Well, if what I just said doesn't tell you that a loss would be devastating for Canelo, it really would. But it's going to be tough to stop Canelo, so it's going to be like a decision. Now, can Charlo dominate a decision, or if he can even win a close one? That's going to set up a rematch. So for Canelo, moving forward, that's definitely going to take a big-time feather out of his cap, a loss. A loss would really hurt him. I doubt he gets knocked out. I doubt he gets blown out on the scorecards. But even any kind of loss to a much smaller man that's been somewhat inactive, or fights about once a year, that would really hurt Canelo's legacy or his image right now and where he stands in the sport. He's still going to be a huge name, but I think a loss to Charlo, he's looked at more as a big name gatekeeper after that. Like, hey, he can probably beat most guys, but those top tier guys, Canelo's going to lose. And I don't think Canelo wants that image. So a loss it would be really, really devastating to Canelo. It really would. Let's switch gears over to the challenger in this fight, but the undisputed super welterweight champion of the world at 154 pounds, Jermell Charlo. Charlo, heading into this fight, we look at his last 3 fights. Not a very active fighter has been Charlo. His last 3 fights date back to September of 2020 during the pandemic. And so heading into this fight, it's in September. He is averaging fighting about once a year, once a calendar year. So inactive, for the most part, but he's made the most of these last 3 fights. They've been 3 of his biggest fights that he's had. 3 years ago in 2020, he attempted to unify belts. He was coming off the victory over Tony Harrison, where he had lost at the end of 2018, and he got his revenge on Harrison. That was the only loss of his career in 2019, stopping him. So he headed into the fight in 2020 against Jason Rosario, who had upset J-Rock Williams to become the unified champ. He had 2 titles, and Charlo had 1 in the WBC belt. And they attempted to unify belts on a double card with his brother, double pay-per-view card with his brother, and he dominated Jason Rosario, broke him down, beat him up, and a monster body shot in the 8th round put Rosario down and out, as Charlo became the holder of 3 of the 4 world titles at 154 pounds. Then he returned, about 10 months later in July of 2021, and he faced off against undefeated WBO champion Brian Castano as he attempted to become the undisputed champ. It was a good fight, very good fight, back and forth. He hurt Castano early and took a couple of the first rounds, but then Castano went on this streak in the middle of the fight where he really took over the fight. I mean, and I thought he did enough to win like 7 rounds in a row is what I had it. But then Charlo dug deep, and in the late rounds, he closed the show strong. I had him winning the last 3. And it went to the scorecards. I had Castano winning the fight 7-5. And I thought he was a solid winner, but the judges came back with a draw, and Charlo held on to his belts. Now, it wasn't the type of fight that I score a robbery, that I think was a robbery. I've always said, any kind of close fight, I think you can't say robbery. But did I think every round was a shutout round to where Castaño should have, you know, he should have won 7-5 clean? No, there was some close rounds in there. Charlo was landing good shots, landing good counter punches. It was a good fight, but he just, you know, I thought he lost. But it was a good fight, and these two guys wanted an immediate rematch. Finally, 10 months later, in May of last year, 2022, these two guys rematched for the Undisputed title. I picked Castaño to win. I personally thought Castaño was up on the cards, but it was tough to judge the rounds because Castaño was landing more punches, but Charlo was landing the better punches. And Charlo was doing the more damaging work. He was sitting down on his punches more, knowing that Castaño really couldn't hurt him unless he was landing a flurry of punches on him. And he sat down and he countered well, landed some big-time shots, and he finished off Brian Castaño in the 10th round of that fight, hurt him badly, put him down hard, and became the undisputed super welterweight champion of the world. Now, he didn't wait around for a fight. He was injured. He had, I think he had a surgery, and that put him out of, he actually got hurt. He hurt his hand prior to a return in January of this year against Tim Tszyu in a mandatory defense, and that put him out of action. The fight was postponed. He was supposed to fight Tszyu during the summer, but he needed more time. And then the Canelo fight, he wasn't waiting around for the Canelo fight. He was going to fight Tim Tszyu. The Canelo fight just kind of fell into his lap when his brother passed on the fight with Canelo because of his inactivity. So, you know, good, you know, I mean, Charlo, the inactivity has hurt him, but Charlo is a guy that does come in conditioned. He is hungry, and he does. I don't think he would have taken this fight if he didn't believe he could win. I don't think he's coming into this fight with the mentality of laying down or anything like that for Canelo Alvarez. I think he wants to win, and I think he's hungry. I think he believes in himself, and that's good. I'm glad he has that mentality. Now, what kind of style does Charlo need to have to win this fight? He needs to come in great conditioning. His stamina needs to be on point because he's going to have to move, because the frame size between their bodies, Canelo being used to fighting guys on this level, Canelo having a great chin, that all works against Charlo. But what works for Charlo is the height and reach advantage. He is 4 inches taller, and he has a 2.5-inch reach advantage. He's gonna have to be nimble. He's gonna have to throw more punches than he normally does. His stamina, his conditioning is gonna have to be on point. He's got to be ready. And if he is, I think he's got a shot to potentially outbox Canelo and keep him away, you know, to try to win this fight. Now, can Charlo win this fight by knockout? I really don't believe so, unless Canelo slows down to a point where he gets caught with a perfect punch. But even then, Canelo has proved that he just has a fantastic chin. So it would have to be similar to the Chris Eubank-Liam Smith fight earlier this year, where you didn't see it coming. He just got caught with something so clean that he got hurt and couldn't recover. I guess that can happen to anybody. But I don't believe that Charlo can win this fight by knockout over Canelo. I just don't. I don't think he can wear Canelo down and stop him, and I don't think he can one-punch stop him. But hey, you never know. Now, can Charlo win this fight by decision? I think that's the only way he can win this fight. But as I said, he's going to have to be very well conditioned. He's going to have to box and jab. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout decision. I think it's close decision. And that's the only way he can win this fight, in my opinion. Now, okay, so, what does a win mean for Jermell Charlo? Well, Jermell Charlo never has to work a day in his life, include box, if he beats Canelo in this fight. He goes down absolutely without question as a first ballot Hall of Famer if he defeats Canelo and becomes an undisputed champion. This would be the biggest win of his career by far. He would not need another big win, even though he probably will still fight. It would be huge. It would be huge for his absolute legacy and career. He goes down as an absolute Hall of Famer if he scores the upset and becomes undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. What does a loss mean for Charlo in this fight? You know, he's coming in really with the nothing to lose attitude. He doesn't have an undefeated record. To move up 2 weight classes and to lose to the undisputed champion in that weight class in the face of boxing wouldn't really hurt Charlo at all, even if he gets his ass whipped. Because one can argue, and most will argue, and I can't say they're wrong, that he moved up 2 weight classes, took a shot, and he got his ass whipped against still one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world and the undisputed champ in that division. So nobody's really going to get down on Charlo, and he still has belts at 154 that he can come back down and defend, and he still has big fights there, like Terrence Crawford and you know, and stuff like that. So really, he's going into this fight with nothing to lose, and I think that's partially why he took the fight, which it's smart. This was a smart move. So really, you know, a loss doesn't hurt Charlo all that very much. It really doesn't. But he's a proud guy, and any kind of loss does hurt. So we'll see. Now, is it better for boxing if Canelo Alvarez retains his undisputed title? Or is it better for boxing if Jermell Charlo becomes the undisputed champ in this fight? And I'll tell you right now, it's absolutely better for boxing 100% if Canelo wins this fight. Reason being, I think most people feel that they've seen the best of Charlo. If Charlo were upset Canelo, I don't think people would really look at Charlo as a world beater that he could do the same against Benavidez. I think people would look at it as Canelo's gotten old, he's out of his prime now, and Charlo got a win. And again, I think it would be a close win to set up a rematch. And, you know, I think people would look at him like, well, okay, that was nice, but he's got no shot against Benavidez, you know? So that's why I don't think it's better for boxing if Charlo wins. But if Canelo wins, it's better for boxing because he stays the best in his division, no matter what his age is. He's the face of boxing. And what people really want to see is that all-Mexican showdown with David Benavidez. So as long as he keeps winning until then, it's absolutely better for boxing because it's going to provide that huge fight right there. And that's why, in other big fights, because Canelo, like I said, can fight whoever he wants. So a guy like that, it's always better for boxing if he wins because he can continue to fight those guys. Now, my prediction. Who do I think is going to win the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo, the battle of 2 undisputeds? I really have not thought twice about this from the get. I think it's a very long shot that Charlo wins this fight. I wouldn't even call him a live underdog. That's how much of a favorite I feel Canelo is. And it's not that Charlo is not quote-unquote good enough to compete. It's, one, if they were fighting in the same weight class, I think Canelo would have a distinct advantage over him. But they'd be fighting in the same weight class. It'd be the same body frame type deal. This is not the same thing. I somewhat look at this fight the way I looked at Tank Davis in Santa Cruz. You know, the only shot I thought Santa Cruz had going in against Tank was the fact that Tank was moving down to 130 to meet him, and Tank had always struggled at 130. But in terms of frame, size, power, the fact that that was Leo Santa Cruz's 4th weight class, even though people were saying, oh, well, he's taller, he's longer. Frame-wise, Tank Davis was bigger. And Tank Davis, the power that he possesses. I look at that fight, at this fight, the same way. Charlo's longer. You know, he's taller. But frame-wise, and the kind of chin Canelo has, the kind of power that he has, the boxing ability, the way he breaks a fighter down, I just think Charlo's out of his depth. And Canelo's the shark here. And I think Canelo's going to bite Charlo in half. I like Charlo. I'm a fan of Jermell Charlo because I can't stand his brother. I love that Charlo is the true lion of those two. And I like what he did at 154 a lot. I'm a fan. But I just don't think he's coming in. I think he's a big-time underdog for a reason. I think Canelo's going to break down the body, beat him up. The fact that he's been out of the ring for such a long time is also another advantage for Canelo. And I think Canelo's going to just break him down, beat him up, and I think he's going to stop Charlo in the middle to later rounds and retain his undisputed title. I don't see it going 12, but if it does, I think Canelo's going to win a convincing decision and retain his undisputed title. But I really believe Canelo breaks down Charlo in this one, stops him, and retains the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world and pushes forward towards something bigger. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my breakdown video between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo as they compete for the undisputed 168-pound super middleweight championship of the world on September 30th on Showtime PPV. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.